So let's do it again. Good evening.
Good evening.
We want to thank you all for coming out for the Superintendent's Community Input Meeting. I want to share with you, this morning I got a call from Dr. Robinson. Someone very close to her is in their final stages in Flint, Michigan, and she had to fly out this morning. So she will not be attending this meeting. But she's in good hands in Delray. And so I've been asked to facilitate this process and on her behalf. It's started. I want to first thank my neighbors. I then want to thank you all for coming out. You all are the important people in this room. I also want to thank one of our recent commissioners. Would you please stand, Commissioner Katz? Commissioner Katz may prove to be a very good friend of this neighborhood. I've watched him. Now, we didn't get Dr. Smith, but if we couldn't get Dr. Smith, Mitch, we really believe, I'm going to put you on the spot.
That's right.
All right? We really believe that you are going to be our commissioner, as well as all people, but you're going to give us the special love of being the kind of advocate that we are. Now, here's the good part. He ain't scared. And he done felt us. He know how we behave. He done seen the blow in, the show up. He even see this video, so he ain't scared.
And represent.
And represent. Thank you. Show up and represent. Thank you, Portia. Now, so thank you, Mitch. Unified is a county-wide coalition whose mission is to how do we strengthen the neighborhoods throughout Palm Beach County that mostly serve or black folk live in, reside in, and play in. Most of those neighborhoods are east of I-95. And if you go, well, I don't know, you know, it's hard to say Boca, but if you go from Delray to Rivera and east of 95, you know that there are pockets that are challenged. It's not exclusive to those neighborhoods, but there are some unique challenges that happens in our neighborhoods. And so the spirit of those of you who've been active in Delray is now beginning to spread throughout Palm Beach County. And Unify is one of the agencies, organizations that I have the privilege to serve on. And they borrowed our platform. Remember you saw the signs that said strong families, good jobs, strong and safe neighborhoods? Well, that's being embraced throughout the county. A part of that is good schools. If we're going to have good and strong families, if we're going to have good jobs, if we're going to have safe neighborhoods, we got to have a good education service delivery model. And so the partners, WARC, SEIU, Coalition for Black Student Achievement, Urban League of Greater Palm Beach County, Black Village Voices, and some names I'm too old to remember, came together and challenged our board member for District 7, Deborah Robinson, to find a way to get the voices of the families and children and those who work in the school district that is most often left out into the conversation of the superintendent selection. She consented to have several meetings, one in Riviera at Inlet Grove, one in Boynton at St. John Primitive Baptist.
Missionary.
Oh, is there a difference between missionary?
Absolutely. Don't even
St. John Missionary Baptist. Y'all want to watch the feet, I know. Poppy Pop tonight. We're meeting in Lake Worth tomorrow night. so that we can get the voices of the folk that are most often not heard. So I hope you don't mind, but one of my colleagues will be recording the meeting because the consultants will also get this footage as we begin to talk about the person who is going to be charged with making sure that we have high quality education for all children. Unfortunately, the children that look like most of us in the schools, in this room, are the ones who are having the biggest challenge. We represent the lowest number of children that are graduating. We represent the lowest number of children that are scoring at high proficiency levels on the state tests, whether they're the federal tests or not. And we represent the greatest number of children who find themselves suspended. While we know that we as a community and parents have our work to do, all of that is not just on our backs. Now, we got to do what we got to do. We got to do what we got to do first. But we also need to have our voices engaged in making sure that we get a highly competent superintendent. So Delray, let's again lead the way. We started with this meeting, and then we're going to come back after we get some information from you to tell you how you can work with Unified and the Coalition for Black Student Achievement so that we make sure that our voice gets heard. We are not going to leave this. Have y'all seen that school board? Y'all better look at it, because we can't leave it up to that school board to make sure that they're going to get the superintendent. We got to. Y'all need my, what do you do?
Go ahead, make up your voice.
We got to get busy. Oh, maybe that's what you need. We got to get busy. So we're going to get started. We want to now begin to talk about what will it take? What do we want to see in a superintendent given the responsibility of making sure that all children receive a high caliber education in Palm Beach County? I open the, before I do, Dr. DePon, did I miss something? Because I'm sure I did.
No, you meant, well, Pahokee, you mentioned Pahokee?
No, we have, we have a meeting in Pokey also.
Right.
Thank you.
Are you going to give us some background about time frame?
Sure.
I've been out of it. I don't know superintendent termination, not termination, but end of his service.
Well, so here's where we are. Our current superintendent didn't renew his contract.
Okay.
All right? The timeline is there is a national search firm that is now sending out information about there's a job opening. They're taking this information to help develop that description that not only goes out, but what they will use as a part of their criteria for creating a short list. That short list will be in sometime around April 4th or 5th. That will go before the school board somewhere around April 7th for them to shortlist it down. The best regulation I have is to 3 persons. From that point, then they're going to make a decision. Now, believe you me, that there are lots of people interested in this position. And I'm not just talking about the people who are applying. We know that the Economic Council is actively engaged in this process. And we know that there are many other special interest groups that are actively engaged in this process. What we are doing is trying to carve out the place and space so that we can as a county, actively be engaged in that process. Our school board member, not the school board member that represents District 7, will fight for the interest of what we pull together. Again, she'll need our support and our participation, starting with you saying what it is that you want to see in the superintendent, how he or she should look, the qualities he or she should have, and the outcomes that you want to see happen under their leadership.
I just have a point of clarification. You said Dr. Robinson represents our area. Where does Erica Whitfield?
She is with a Carver Middle School out west.
So she's partially responsible for this community
Yes,
too.
for those of us that live west of Carver.
445.
There's also some east too,
Yeah.
east of Federal, like Tropical, I know is part of the district.
Well, I
So
just
very
want to make them note of that,
gerrymandered.
so Erica
Yeah.
Whitfield should be participating in this too, so just FYI.
knows.
Okay,
She knows.
all right.
What is her?
She's on the school.
Well, before we do that, can we talk about what you want? We'll get to Erica.
Yeah.
We want to know what you want. What do you want to see in the what do you want to see in the superintendent?
I haven't had a child in a school system in a while. I believe you should have someone who has at least 20, 25 years experience in the field of education. I believe it should be someone with a PhD. I also believe it should be someone who has been a former or present superintendent of schools in some other county comparable to Palm Beach County. I don't know if it's possible if we could have someone of color.
She said, is it possible that we can have someone from Florida A&M? I'm sorry.
University or any other. Harvard would be nice. Dr. Gates, call it Dr. Gates.
Why don't we talk? This ain't working.
Well,
Just
she
talk.
needs it, I
You
think.
need it?
Yes.
Well, then come on up. Because I can't make it with you.
Yvonne Odom recently retired. What I'd like to see in a superintendent is someone who has had experience working with diverse communities. Because if you haven't worked with our kids, and Palm Beach County is largely African American. You got to understand that, even though we have our pockets. And it's also diverse. Because if you have kids from Boca High, who's some of the smartest kids in the entire county, and we run the spectrum. So I think a county outside, someone should have that work experience, that they have worked with minorities, they have worked with low achieving students, as well as high achieving students.
Morris Kasarfin, I think whoever that person is going to be, it needs to be someone that will be able to set the tone for the Palm Beach County school system. A leader, someone that's pretty much our CEO of the school district. Someone that's not afraid of challenges, someone that is definitely be able to inspire and able to encourage and work together with all ethnicities. Okay.
Ms. Rose, come on up.
Excuse me, up here, Chuck. I would like to see a superintendent who's, and I think it's been said before, who's more diverse, with all of the children of all race and culture. And I would also like to see a superintendent who interacts with the parents instead of sitting behind the doors and hiding behind the doors of the secretaries. We need somebody that's going to be involved in the communities. I actually, Greta and I, Greta found out that there was going to be a meeting in Boynton, I believe it was Boynton, with Mr. Jett. He has never held a meeting for our community to meet with our parents, but I found it very perplexed that he would have a meeting with the majority of the other parents in other communities. And I really, that really disturbed me. But Greta and I did make it our business to show up at that meeting. I would like to see a superintendent who's going to work with all and not just a select few.
So here's what I've heard so far. We do want someone with experience with working inside of the school system. Is that
That would be my
all right?
suggestion. I'm gonna work with.
Got some experience. I heard you say that began to take a twist was to get up and come into all communities and begin to develop a relationship. Whether the community comes to him or not, or come to her or not, that they will be willing to get up and find out what is going, honoring the diversity of the community. And did I hear that part correct?
Yes.
I also heard someone who can set a tone. Am I correct?
Yes.
Have I missed anything in what I'm hearing so far?
And Chuck, one other thing, I've gone to school board meetings where parents, we don't get a reply back. I think that there should be some form of information. When a parent speaks, someone should reply back.
Has
Because
that
to
ever
me,
happened
that's
to you
important.
personally? Has that happened to you?
Yes, more
I
than
know
once.
that.
I've gone to a school board meeting, and you've been there as well, and there is no reply. We speak, but we get no results. What is happening when we go to the school board meetings and we speak? Where is our input going? Is anyone viewing it? Is anyone hearing it? Are we getting any?
Well, Mitch, what do you think? Well, I want to apologize for asking that question. I knew what the answer was, but I wanted the remainder of the audience to hear that many of our superintendents have been non-responsive,
Exactly.
especially to folk from this neighborhood. We go and say, here's what our concern is, and there's a bureaucracy that's there that just ignores and just grinds our children and parents up on occasion. So I wanted to just have our neighbors hear that. Mitch, were you trying to speak to us?
The only thing I was going to say is,
Please stand so they can see you.
by saying you want somebody from within the system, you could possibly be limiting yourself from somebody that is really good. Robert Runcie in Broward is a good example of that. He did work at Chicago Public Schools, but he got there from the private sector as a consultant, went to work at Chicago Public Schools, was there a short time, is now Broward Superintendent. So it's just something you want to consider, because you really want is the best person for the job. Sometimes corporate America could offer somebody like that could do the best for the kids. If we eliminate, like, I always say is widen the scope, widen the net.
Commissioner, is there any other characteristics as a commissioner who have a special relationship with this neighborhood?
I agree with most of the comments. Mostly what she said is somebody that's going to listen to the whole community. That's extremely important, because we do have a very diverse community. I mean, we have Palm Beach County. There are pockets of every ethnicity, every type of population, and they have to be willing to reach out to every one of those communities, because every one of those kids deserve a voice. So they've got to be the voice for every single one of those kids.
I would perhaps disagree with you a little about the corporate, nothing new, right? About the corporate position. I don't want our school system run as a corporation. I think that's part of the problem right now. They're trying to get profit out of nothing, because we don't put the money into the schools that we need to anyway. And when you're trying to produce something out of nothing using tests that don't pertain to the children, we stop teaching. I would ask Miss Yvonne if she would agree to this or not. since she's retired, she can say anything she likes.
I said it when I wasn't retired.
Okay.
But
That's
yes, in a sense, because I wanted to indicate somebody who could work with the staff, because being a teacher, to me, that's the most valuable person in the system, because that's who's working with the child.
Someone who works.
So he has to be able to get along with all people. But I wouldn't throw out a corporate person just to throw him out, but I would strongly suggest that you have someone who has worked in a school setting, because I agree with you with the profit margin. People in the business world come with a different mindset,
Yes.
and you cannot treat children like you can on an assembly line.
Yes.
That's a total different mindset when you're dealing with a child.
Humans, we're human. we're
Yes,
not-
and you cannot do it, and sometimes a person that's from the corporate world may have that mindset. It's almost like somebody telling you how to raise your child, and you've never had any kids of your own. So,
But
I would agree with you on
strongly
that.
emphasize that we do not want someone who believes in this new test, and the children are not learning. All the teachers are having to do is teach to the test. And I think there's a movement abroad,
Well,
hopefully.
now that statement I disagree with you, because if we taught to a test, we get fired.
Well, you're
Well,
not
you
supposed to
do that.
say you're doing it, but reality
don't
is
have the test,
reality.
but let's
You
not
don't
go
have the
into
test,
that,
but you know what's going to be on the test. Anyhow,
Yeah.
the old way of just teaching
I agree
and
with that
testing
part,
the
too.
knowledge went out probably when I graduated. So I would like to see someone who is not so enamored with this new idea of testing, when the children are so afraid that they're developing ulcers.
Thank you. Got a rich conversation going.
Thank you. I wanted to tag on to your comments. I have 3 kids, 15, 13, 11. They're in 3 different schools, Boynton High, Odyssey, and Forest Park. I'm from Massachusetts, so I can compare the school system to this school system. I think that there's a disconnect. Like you're saying, it's kind of run like a corporation. I'm not sure. I'm kind of trying to evaluate how it's run top down. I'll give you 2 examples. One is that my daughter jammed her finger playing baseball. So I wrote a note to the school, They said, well, we'll have to have an emergency IEP meeting to get her a scrub, to help her not take the test, because it was testing last week. You're gonna have to go to the doctor, she's gonna have to like sit in the office. My child sat in the office all day, one day. Then I had to schedule a doctor's appointment, which you know is like in the future. And then this IEP meeting for her to have accommodations for her finger, it's cumbersome. And she felt like she was in trouble for something she didn't even do. It's like, baseball accident or whatever. So I would like to see the system be more smoothly transitional and flow according to each child. You can't just say, okay, these are our IEP rules or whatever rules you have for situations and not really actually look at this specific child. My second example, I'm sorry if I could take a moment more, is that I have a child in Odyssey and my child is ADHD. He's not on medication. I work really hardly for him. He has accommodations in his IEP, which I had to learn the language and all that, be Chinese. Anyway, so I put it in there and I go and I call the meetings. I don't wait for them to call the meeting until I call the meetings, and I call a meeting on my son because I was looking at his grades and his math grades, and I'm sitting down with him. I don't know this math. This math, I'm sorry, I'm sure you've had a lot of conversations. I've seen them all about the math. Okay, you have to teach it this way to go through that. Okay, whatever. So I sit down with him to teach him the math. He does not understand all the steps, and he's hyper, so he doesn't have the attention span to sit down for all the steps, right? So I give him these like little shortcuts. Okay, I know I'm losing your attention, but hang on for 1 second. The teacher, when I sat down in the meeting and showed her that he could understand it if she broke it down into smaller little segments, she tested him, she did the work. First she was very defensive, but you know what? She gave him an A for that he missed them all. So I go back in and I say, no, I don't want him to miss it and get a 50%, which is like, what, a C, so you can still pass? I want him to understand it. And so then she's surprised. I said, does he need a different classroom? The principal and the guidance counselor and everyone's like, oh no, we don't want to move him into another classroom. I'm like, we need to think outside the box and have options so the child actually goes to the next grade knowing the information that was supposed to be, instead of the rigidness or the inability to say, you know what, I'm not teaching him. Let's look at the alternatives. You know, I have no problem with the teachers coming to me and saying, I'm having a challenge teaching your child. Then we can have a conversation, but you're just putting it under the rug. He's in what, 7th grade? It's not okay. Because I want my child to have optimum success. So I'm sorry.
No.
We're taking too much time.
No, you just made this thing flip. All right, so here's what I heard you say. I want to ask some questions. You want a school that works for you and your children. That can make that happen. So let me ask some questions. You know, we often talk about like goals and expectations. We also sometimes talk about an education gap. So let me ask some questions. You're talking about your children, your grandchildren, your nieces, your nephews, your sisters, and your brothers. How many of them you want to graduate high school, ready to go to college? No, you don't want like 30% to graduate? How many want to graduate? Okay, no, can't be, because when you go to the school system, they're talking 40%. How many do you want? Well, that's where we got to go, you want. How many of you want what percent of the children you want to read at high grade levels? How many? Yes, hold on, let me just finish. I'm going to get to you, George. How many do you want to? Go ahead.
Are they still using the bell system?
I don't know about Bell.
No.
I know who is the bell curve.
Yeah.
I hope the heck not. I do not think so, George, but I will not vouch for anybody. I do not know is the answer.
I'm sorry, can I just add one thing to that? I'm sorry.
Yes, please.
In the newsletter that came out from my school, it says, we celebrate our C. That school has a C grade level. I don't know how you guys rate your schools, but their school rating is a C.
Right.
I never heard celebrating a C.
I understand. All right. So, would it be safe to say that we want a superintendent that forget about this gap between black and white, because they ain't teaching the white children either. Y'all hear me? They're not teaching them either. Well, they're not teaching them either. That we want proficiency. She's trying to suck a beard and say, I ain't going, that's a camel or whatever. Okay. There is, our benchmark is 100% of our children. And they're going to tell us, you can't get 100% of the children. Why would we settle for that? Not for my child. And they'll also tell us, well, you know college ain't for everybody. Well, they ain't talking about everybody when they say that. It's only a certain category, complexion of children they're talking about when they're saying college ain't for everybody. And even if you are a mechanic, you might as well graduate from college because you got to work the same computers, read the same kind of manuals, have the same kind. So, guys, they're not going to just bring a superintendent in that's going to look out for the best interests of our children if we continue this passive approach. I think I know who and what the characteristics are. I want to now make a pivot. If you don't know, please go ahead before I move.
I think it's important to have a superintendent that has a backbone, okay? Someone who will stand and do what's right for everyone.
Right.
Okay, and not fall into the pit of special interests that come before the school board and they get scared and they cave into those special parents.
Who's taking notes? Because that's a good one.
That
Anybody taking notes?
Well, I asked, I can't make
But
nobody.
see, that was.
But we'll try to get it off of that.
Okay, because that was my point. I think the points that are being made, what happens, how are you going to?
Well, we're
present these?
recording.
And you're going to present them to whom?
The consultant who is, they have a national search firm.
Okay.
And so what your school board member for this district has done is that they will have to take the notes coming off the recording.
Okay.
And we try to also put them in writing to the supporter. But she's going to review it and go through each and every point with them so that it gets incorporated both in the description that goes out and both as a part of a screening tool that's going to be used by the consulting firm.
Right. We have to, because the lady that made that point was supposed to be taking notes. And I noticed that, I noticed that she wasn't writing anything down.
But we will, but now, but I also want to tell you, in the terms of the pivot, that we are, yes, you have someone, go ahead, Ms. Brown.
Okay, and not only that, but in terms of, I heard, working with the community, someone who has the experience in working with a diverse community. But not only having that experience in working with them, but we gotta make sure that they have the same expectations that we have for our children.
Right.
Because some people can work with you but don't have the same expectations.
Right.
So I think that's important. And then also, someone who, diversity was another thing that was said, not only about our city, but about our county as a whole is very diverse. And so I think using that diversity to the benefit of, learning, bringing in all the cultures, someone who can bring it and bring all of the coalitions together, all of the communities together, and be able to work with them from that perspective. So, and then the other thing is money. Okay, money that's already in the system, that's being misused. Money that, on programs that aren't working. Let's stop it. Put it on something towards something that is working. They want to get rid of the summer programs, and we know that what happens during the summer when our kids aren't engaged, the summer slide.
Right.
So we need a superintendent who understands the summer, the after school is important for our communities.
Okay.
Do I understand you to say they're not going to have summer school?
No, no. Well, the school district, no, they don't have summer school, but.
How long has that been going on? Years?
But I'm saying there's money that they're using that could be redirected. And so it takes somebody savvy enough to go in and cut the fat and bring it to what's most needed.
Yes, ma'am.
What about the No Child Left Behind program?
Left to me, man.
They left them.
You look a bit out there for too long.
Well, my point was, if you keep promoting the kids, we're going to be right where we're going to say, it's just simple. So you're going to have to start down here and hold them and try to get them straightened. They're just not ready from kindergarten into first grade. So we have to hold them back and get them ready. But you can't wait till they get to be seniors, and then here we go.
Right, absolutely.
And nobody's going to college, and nobody's doing anything. So true.
Absolutely. Thank you.
Chuck, I think what I'm hearing is, we need, I think somebody definitely who's an educator, someone who's walked down that road, talked that talk, and who's been there. I think in terms of a job description or somebody looking for the right candidate is somebody who is a proven leader, someone who has done this before in another jurisdiction. And the challenge in finding that particular person, if they exist, would be from a strong reference pool, maybe somewhere in the vetting out process, going to the jurisdictions where they've taught before and really find out if that person has that proven track record of this type of diversity that we're talking about. The school district is the largest employer, if I'm not mistaken, in Palm Beach County. It's a massive, really a massive institution and system. And so it'd be very easily say on the job application, the job description, I have diversity, I've done A, B, and C. But there needs to be something in the process where if the candidates are identified, we can go, or the process can go and really find out and check those references out, go into those communities, some kind of, and really find out, what we're getting. I'd just like to add that.
Thank you.
Did you say something about they've already narrowed it down to 2 or 3, or they will narrow it down?
So before I pivot, I've heard a lot of good stuff. I do want to talk about, I'm gonna let you back in, because there's a couple of other categories that I also want to hear some more feedback about. It's the personnel. You brought up personnel as the largest employee. And then you have your instructional staff, and you have your non-instructional staff that this superintendent, he or she, would be responsible for. And I've heard a little bit about the expectations of the instructional staff. But there is a whole other side of bodies that are quite important on that campus and bring our children to school and set all kinds of tones. Now, I grew up in a time when it wasn't just, I didn't know who every adult on the campus was the teacher. Everybody was interested. No one on that campus saw me as who I was. They saw me as who I was going to become. Do you think that the superintendent, back to your tone in terms of tone, has a role in setting a tone for the instructional and non-instructional staff? If so, I would like to hear something about it. But I want to go to you first, Rose.
Oh, I'm sorry. I was about to say that, speaking back to what this young lady said, and a young lady over here as well, we as parents need our superintendent to be able to make sure that principals are held accountable for their staff and teaching our children. And I've had to fight tooth and nails, and we are fortunate enough to have Mr. Jetty here that works in the Area 1 with Dr. Sosman. This is our Area 1 person, Mr. Jetty. And I have been dealing with him over and over and over to get some accommodations what this young lady was speaking here. Teach our children. Don't just think that they're supposed to sit there and you're supposed to pass them on. No, teach them. Well, we need a principal that's going to make sure that the principals are doing their job.
So as it relates to the personnel, you want a superintendent that can make sure that the principals are making sure that, okay, all right.
Yes.
Okay, so I was going to go there when you went. When you went non-instructional, so my name is Robert Watson, so I'm the regional organizer for SEIU, so we deal with non-instructional workers, and they have to have a superintendent and recognize it. We respect the teachers in their position, but they have to have somebody to support them. And so we found over the last, I've been here like 4 years, we found over the last 4 years, they're basically ignored. So when I go to school board meetings, and a lot of times people don't see me there, because most of the time I'm pissed because I hear teachers not disrespect to them, but I'm saying, come on, you have a whole nother realm of people. So I work with bus drivers, we work with custodians, we work with food service workers, we work with parents, we work with those who are working in schools who teach our kids who have IPs and stuff. They're not recognized. And we want a superintendent, and somebody said it earlier, with a backbone, and to speak to the principals. Because for years in the history of West Palm, and I do my homework, they really supported all principals. They would not go against anything that they're saying. And so they need to make them align up with the district, do their jobs, and I've met good principals, I'm not putting them down, do their job and make their staff accountable to what they're supposed to be doing.
Yes.
But when I come about the non-instructional, I really want a superintendent that hears people, and I don't have to take 200 bus riders in the school district and have the police follow me around to make sure they don't turn it out, you know, so, and show up and show out. Because if they see me there, they know they're going to show up and show out. So, okay, so we want, you know, we want to be able to walk in with respect and dignity, because that's all people are asking, and they're asking to be paid. So across the country, we fight for 15, we're asking them to pay folks. You want good quality teachers? Pay them. You want a good custodian? Pay them. You want a good bus driver? Pay them. And we want somebody to be able to stand up in the community and go ahead and do what they're supposed to do. So we're out here, and Chuck knows we have these battles. I just stay in my office sometimes because, you know, I be out there getting in trouble. But anyway, so I really would like to see a superintendent. And I too was a parent, and I had, my granddaughter was here in Palm Beach County. She didn't like it. So they shot back home. I was raising my son here, and I have went to the schools and battled them from the principal on down about what you're supposed to be doing with a kid with an IEP, how he's supposed to be treated, not passing along. And like I told her, we don't do C's. I don't know where that comes from. Okay, don't come home with no C. That's not acceptable. I raised 4 kids, and I told each one of their teachers, we don't do C's. Okay? So, oh, they're doing great, they made a C. So we don't do C's. Okay? So I know where you're coming from. Hopefully. So we'll be out in the background checking this out, but I do want the communities, tell your friends and your neighbors, this is really important. And this is the first opportunity, and Chuck, let's say this to you, that people have an opportunity to say what they want and make somebody hear them. And so people really need to participate in these forums. So as we go along doing them, you know, we're just going to push that folks come out, put your voice in, because it's time out for I don't have nothing to say. And we're going to wait and see what happens. People always tell us we're going to wait. I'm going to wait. So, you know, y'all need to do y'all thing. I'm proud of y'all. Just do y'all thing. I love Delray. I was looking at some of these houses. I was like, why did they move here?
This isn't very enough. This room should be standing on.
And Deborah, we got some soldiers in here. Yes, ma'am.
You know, going back to the role of the superintendent, you know, if we get the right superintendent in place, but he doesn't have the power. If he doesn't have the power to weed out the bad, then the bad is still going to be in there teaching our kids. So, what can we do to get there has to be a process that weed out, because we do have some bad principals, we have bad teachers, we have bad across the board, and we got to get them out.
Yes.
And so the other thing is, you know, to her comment, that there was once a principal, beloved, that stood up in a SAC meeting, joked with another parent, that our school is a B school, is not a B school because 4 black kids kept our school from being a B school. Inflammatory remarks, right? I had them to make sure it was documented in the minutes. I made sure to send out notes to complaints to the school improvement department, to the superintendent, to the school board, all of that. And he got principal of the year.
In defense of that principle, you don't see the policymakers, that's how they identify kids in subgroups.
We were not talking about
No, what I'm
disaggregated
saying
data.
is the 4 black students, because I was at a school where the black kids were such a minority that they didn't even count. So this is why you gotta get knowledgeable of what counts. And I don't think he probably was doing it derogatory, he was doing it as a fact.
No, I can tell you the whole story. It
Yeah,
was
well, I'm just
derogatory.
saying, you gotta be
No, I
careful when you say
understand.
that.
And it was a
because they do
predominantly
put
black
subgroups.
school.
And
It
they
was a
identify.
predominantly black school. And the principal was joking with the gifted parent. She said, well, I hope you expelled him.
Oh, Lord.
And he says, ha, ha, ha. No, but I did call their parents in, you
But
know.
at the school where I taught, we had so few white kids that our high achieving white kids was not going to count toward our score. You have to understand the system. And all kids are discriminated against because they put them in categories. And it just happened to be the black ones, but there are schools where you don't have enough black kids, so they put them on this, say, NA, and I saw that with my own eyes. Meaning not Africa. Meaning you don't even have to bother to teach them because their scores don't count.
Right.
That's the reality.
Right now,
And you just got to get knowledge.
and it's just that we were not talking about disaggregated data at that time.
And that's back to the testing.
All right, so we're gonna move the conversation. You, George, you got your hands up like
Yeah, no, I want to say that everything I'm hearing is systematic of the Bell system. You can say they don't have it, like you said, but everything that I'm hearing here tonight is systematic of the Bell system.
I didn't say they didn't have it. I said I don't.
Well, somebody else
Okay.
It's like everything else, it's changed names. It's nothing
Well,
that's
and
changed.
here's the part that also is the same. We're too disengaged as a community and parents, no matter what system they have. Because the power of the community can change all of this nonsense. So here's the pivot. All right? Now, we've talked about what we want. Here's the other thing that we got that superintendent to agree to. I'm sorry, the school board member to agree to. That when they have the applications, when they come in, you're going to get a copy of them. Every one of them. No, don't start clapping because you got some work to do now. All right? On the weekend of April 4th at 2112 South Congress Avenue, write it down, Suite 205, 2112 South Congress Avenue, Suite 205, take I-95 to Forest Hills, head west towards the school board, make a left when you get on Congress, right across the street from the YWCA or YMCA or somebody CA. Come up to Suite 205, and then we're going to start researching each and every candidate. We have created a rubric that is going to look at all the qualifications that I just heard you share and rate them on those qualifications. That rubric, I'm sorry.
The address.
I'll get back to that. That rubric will also allow us to see what they did. We'll be able to check because we're going to use the national norm test, both from elementary through 8th grade. Dr. DuPont, what is that test called? NAEP. I'll tell you who Dr. DuPont is later. She won't
The National Assessment of Educational Progress.
What you said up to line for?
National Assessment of Educational Progress.
And would you tell them what other categories you're going to check?
Grades 4 and 8, and reading and math. Also SAT, reading and math participation, ACT, reading and math participation, graduation, dropout, and suspension rates.
All right, so guess who made the rubric we're going to use? I'm so proud of Dr. DuPont. She's going to tell you because she's all about you. It could easily be the superintendent. So we got work to do, you all. What we, as a community, every tool, expertise we need exists in our community. You got some smart folk, let's stop pretending to be not. We're going to get in there and we're going to roll up our sleeves and get our hands around what that person should look like and watch this process. And we're going to empower the person who sits in District 7 to utilize our voice through our hard work and say, this is why I am fighting for these people, because I am standing on the power given to me by a community who cares enough about all children, particularly their children, to do the work that most of the school board wouldn't even have done. We're asking you to join us. We're going to be there from 9 o'clock. We're going to give you one donut and a cup of coffee. Or maybe more than one donut. Okay. But we want you to come in and work. We're going to get this information. You got all of your signing. Please make sure you put the right phone number on there so we can call you. Don't want to reach down to the. But we want the right numbers and email address so we can get this information out to you. We got to work you all. You don't know how long the superintendent is here, but a superintendent is coming. The school district is what it is. And we can blame others for it, and there's enough blame going around. But what we can do, the thing that we can do something about is, are we willing to work hard enough to change the culture and climate for the children's sake? So I got the privilege of growing up at a time when I wasn't viewed based on who I was. I grew up at a time in Delray where they saw me as who I was going to become, and stood in the gap until I got there, in spite of everything, in spite of me trying. I done did everything I could to mess up my life, but they stood in the gap. All right? The community, this community. And it was full of teachers and janitors and doctors and bus drivers and dentists and farmers and people who care. That DNA is still in Delray.
That's right.
Yes, ma'am.
I have to say something. This gentleman talked about the bell curve. He knows what he's talking about. That's the same innate ability model thing that we talk about. But the key thing is when you change your mindset. And just like this lady said, I don't tell her children, told the teachers, we don't do C's. That's the mindset that has to change. And what you're saying, you're absolutely right. Things are already structured in a way to say, okay, you were born smart, you were born kind of dumb, but you're born very smart. And that model is in place. But as an individual parent and community people, you have to say, not my child, not my family. And but you're absolutely right. That's what's at work. And too many people have succumbed to it. You know, they believe that. And so that's why I love it when she said, she let them know, not C's in my house. You know, because otherwise, then that's what you're going to get. So this lady, when she go stand up for her children, that's the default model. And you're absolutely right about it. But that's why it's going to take people working in the community to get out of this mindset and have people understand that smart isn't something smart is something you get. You get smart by working hard. And you have to let them know that with the children, proper support, they can achieve high academic and character standards. And what bothers me the most is when like the little babies, and you know the little ones, how smart they are, they just catch on to things like that. And when they go to a kindergarten or like a preschool, pre-K or whatever, and someone says to the young fella, well, what's your name? He says, Pookie. And then you look at the child and say, well, he doesn't even know his name. But the point is, they don't say and then talk his name. If you teach him his name, he would know his name. And just like these children can learn a language by the time they're 3 or 4 years old, they can do challenging complex work. So we got to get us proper support, and we got to speak up for them. But you got it right. This system is already in place. But what we have to do is work counter to that. And when you all talked about, if I got more than one child in my house, I expect 100% graduation. You have to let people know that. Because see, otherwise, they say, well, we can't accomplish that. And you, again, in my house, they all graduate, and I expect them to get high standards. You know, and but the system will tell you we can't achieve 100%. So that's why y'all need a superintendent who understand what the real target is. And that real target is not another racial group. You know, you don't look to say, well, the white children are 70%, so now I want black 70, Hispanic 70. No, it's 100%. And what she talked about these school grades, that I'm telling you, you just don't get it. The whole thing is just set up where you got to get somebody who care beyond the school grade. You know, to know that, okay, if you're talking about A-rated district, they know that I still got to get this work done because this is not what it's about. So that person has to have clear targets and they have to know what their targets are, you know. And once they have that, but then as a people, as a community, we got to do our part for our children. You know, we have to, and that's why I appreciate you all so much for coming out, that as a community, we have to make sure that these people that our children are around, that they got to be the right people. You know, because some people say, well, and I'm going to stop in a second. Some people say, you know, well, the parent got 2 or 3 jobs. I said, I'm sure the parent got 1,000 jobs. Children still got to be raised and supported. They still need caring adults who can protect them, love them, nurse them, encourage them, and teach them. They still need that. And I tell them it took work to make these babies. It took work to birth them, and it take work to raise them. And that's why we got to come together. So if you got a parent, one parent, the twins, they both got PhDs, and I was one of the person who helped them get through high school and college in terms of support. But their mom made sure they were left in proper hands. And that's what I'm saying as a community, how we have to come together. So even if the parent got 2 or 3 jobs, but it's still their responsibility to make sure that they're left in caring hands, you know. So, but anyway, I just want to let you know you got it right. That model is in place because that's the default model. That's what's at work. But you have to say to people, not my child.
What I've heard is that in local 20 years that I heard teachers in class meetings use terminology, not the bell system, but it relates to that in terms of the kids in the first grade.
There you go, that's it.
And I would make statements, the kids is on the spot, is what they expose.
Right.
So, you know, they automatically put her child at the bottom of the curve.
Exactly.
Perhaps because of race, I don't know.
Exactly. But you have to, that's why the parent have to not let that happen. That's why, since I've been retired, but see, I go to school with parents, you know, in terms of, they got, but you know, some of the parents don't understand how it works and all. But I have a couple of parents that, you know, they didn't understand how the EP process, and then people use terminology they didn't understand. But see, I go to school with them.
That was kind of where I was headed with my question is how are we going to engage Pookie's mama?
Exactly.
You know, how because she's not here tonight.
Exactly.
And she rarely comes to these kinds of meetings. How are we going to make sure that she understands how this thing works?
So I think that's something we're going to work collectively on. We've had a couple of attempts, and you just got to continue to do what we do. I mean, I'm blessed to know who's in the room. All right. I mean, this is Dr. DuPont. These are the people who helped me raise my children. All right. Like you helped me raise my children. All right. So we got it, Dorothy. How many children you got? I know you cut the. You even know how many children you got. I know they're all yours.
600.
I know they're all yours. Okay, and I know you're gonna. So let's just find out a way how to get to them. So maybe part of what we do is right after you've already cut the ribbon. I think I was out of town. By the time you cut the ribbon again or whatever we got to do, we better be there and start figuring it out collectively. We'll start working with you now. Well, I will connect you. I remember when you used to serve on the boundary board because of how people used to treat the children you care about. Same with you, George. So you can't retire. No. All right. You think you retired? That's old. I see it. Just like she came out of retirement.
That was a great statement you just made because I got over gossip budget. It's supposed to be every Thursday. And I said, I have a meeting to go. He said, man, I thought you were going to retire. I said, no, you don't retire.
Dwayne.
So, I don't know if this is the proper forum for this, but you're talking about, I guess, you know, the hiring whoever the next superintendent is, but, you know, I generally have some concerns, and I've shared with you and others in this room as well, about concerns that I have, you know, specifically about our high school here locally, which is Village Catholic. And, you know, back when I sent my daughter, you know, initially to Village Academy back in the 9th grade, you know, and to see, you know, the education and how that whole system worked out there at Village turned out to be something totally different from what was initially sold to us in terms of how that school was supposed to operate and what it was supposed to do. And, you know, I gotta admit, you know, and I think I've told you this on several occasions, you know, my experience there with my oldest child was such that, you know, by the time my youngest child came along, you know, and I said this to you before, there was no way in hell I was gonna send my son back over there, you know, to go through the same stuff that they went through, that my daughter went through over there at Village. And, you know, I don't know whether this is more of the comment that I'm making is more of, should be tied to whoever our rep is for this particular area to hold the superintendent accountable or be able to shine the light over there to say that, you know, Village was intended to be that type of school that was supposed to take you from the cradle to the grave, and by the time you cradle to college, and by the time you got finished there, you know, you were supposed to be ready. And just some of the stuff that goes on over there, some of the stuff that went on over there, you know, while my child was there, it almost, you know, I almost hate to say it, you know, sometimes you know, I hate to even make this statement, but I gotta make it, you know, it almost makes me regret that I sent my daughter to a black school over there, you know, because to me, when you look at the stereotypes and the way people think about us and the way they handle us, that's exactly what went on over there at that school. I think it's under poor leadership right now, and I think leadership actually needs to change over there because it is not designed for what it was supposed to do back when you were over there.
Dwayne, the answer is still the community.
Answer still what?
The community. We still have to embrace it, and we'll get it right. I know you've heard me say it a couple of times, but the answer is still the same. The power is in the community. The village is a product of this community, and we're going to have to do what we need to do to get it on track.
And what might that be? Because I've been hearing that now for a while, and I've kind of just, and maybe I haven't been, you know, shouting from the rooftop. I haven't been into the school board meetings, but I can tell you that we have been very involved in our children's lives. We stay involved with their lives, what's going on with, you know, with them at school. And to be quite frankly and honest with you, the stuff that goes on over there is piss poor. I'm sorry to use those type of words, but that's just what it is.
I would like to know, are there any parents who have children at Village here tonight? Want to speak to them? You want to say anything?
No, wait. No, we're not going. We're not going. All right? We're not going there, but we will get with you, with that. Dwayne, you are not going to, I am not coming to another community meeting.
And I have the same thing.
I know. So we're going to address it before the next time. You're going to have me in front of the community having this conversation. But we will address it. I've heard you. I gave you a time frame. Time to address it. Let's take it back to the superintendent. All right?
So Chuck, just listening at all the comments that have been made around the room, that obviously it goes back to my initial point of having a superintendent be able to set the tone. But in addition to that, when you have these pockets, when you have these isolated incidents, I think someone said it before, where the hold the principals accountable. So that person has to have a clear direction, set the tone, and be able to have accountability follow-up on these schools, on these isolated incidents, and then be able to hold people accountable, and then go back and have some type of system to be able to follow up on those things that the community has brought forth. And then when you do that, some type of system to let us know what has been done about it. And I think someone said it before earlier at the beginning of the conversation about the communication piece, that they had voiced and concerns, but no one from the school board had gotten back to them. So that person got to have clear and great communication skills, if not himself, to making sure that all his employees have something in place.
Thank you.
I'd like to address what Dorothy was asking. She made a statement. She said, you know, Cookie's mom's not here tonight, but I want to disagree a little bit, Dorothy. And I understand why you said it, but I think through all of the community members that are here, okay, Cookie's mom is here and father is here. And I think that, you know, a lot of individuals who volunteer tirelessly, like I mentioned the work board earlier, other board members, all across our community. And the reality is, it goes back to what Dwayne was saying, is that, you know, it's, when you think about it, it's long suffering, okay? It is long suffering, and to me, that's the answer. It is coming to these meetings, not only coming to the meetings, but coming back and getting involved with a volunteer board, you know, like Ward. We're going for this particular position because that's what gives us capacity. 8 hours a day. You know, look, this system, this bell curve system, is designed full time. Okay, it never sleeps. Okay, so the answer and the response to that, and the rebuttal of that is that we have to have a similar type mentality and model. Okay, and if you got 2 or 3 jobs and you can't come, like Dr. DuPont said, just like the community, the goal is to find an organization or group of the ones that are carrying the load. Okay, if you can get involved, okay, and so that position that we're looking for, that'll bring capacity to work. There's a sustainable community committee which deals with education, which talks about after school programs, okay, which talks about getting involved with the kids, and we help collectively. But the power really is, Chuck alluded to, the power is in the community. Amen. This particular superintendent that's coming in, the accountability is not, the accountability comes from the community. Okay? The system is set up for it not to come from the school district. Okay? It's just too large of a system. The power comes from these type of meetings, long suffering, coming back. When you want to give up, that's the absolute time that you can't give up. And Lord, believe you me, you know, it's not like you're going to give up a lot. You know, it's tough. But that, to me, that is the key. And Dorothy, I got to call you out. You're a wonderful example. When I found out you wanted to join the work board with all of the things that you've done, I said to myself, that's going to bring capacity to that board based on your proven track record, okay, in the housing board. Okay, and so that's another example. And when those things happen, that community involvement, that continued involvement, long suffering, I think, and then you have new blood come in, and we have our seniors, and you know, we have our warriors out there like Chuck, but it's that collective effort, sustained, that I think, Dwayne, that really is going to make a difference. Because, and I'll just say this and I'll stop, when I was in college, I was, believe it or not, heavily involved with student organizations. And we had some issues that we took to the administration. And this is the curve, here's the bell curve coming into play. And one of my professors told me I had some particular issues, you know, fire up about something, you know, to make things happen. And one of my professors told me, he said, Reggie, one day you're going to graduate. And I thought about it often over time, but basically he said, you know, it's only a set amount of time. You know, you're really not going to be worried about this. Why are you worried about this? You're going to get up out of here. Okay? You know, why are you concerned with this? One day you're going to move on. You need to focus, you know, on your studies and focus on that. And I think that's when we have to kind of recharge and really come back to the community. So I think the answer, it took a long time to say it, but the answer is really in the community holding it accountable.
I agree wholeheartedly, but I thought it was important to put that out there. I think it's important to recognize that someone has to speak for Cookie's mom, and that's really one of the roles that I play in this case.
You know, because I'm gonna start losing people. That's why all of you have to be to the CRA meeting on Thursday. The CRA meeting on Thursday. Because the staff position that Walk is seeking really is about building the kinds of institutions we need to have the vehicles to make the kinds of changes we want. Guys, you just gotta be there. You know, Pookie, I'm gonna come to you, sir. I wish one of these administrators would have said to my mom that she was not involved in my life when I was in school. I just wish so bad. Oh, I wish I would have said it to Cynthia Ripley. You ain't involved because who do you think wake these children up every morning? Who do you think put these clothes on these children? Who do you think getting his bad behind up and sending them to you? You think I'm keeping the good children home and sending you just the bad children out of my house? I'm sending you the best I got. Now, when I grew up, there was a conspiracy between the schools and the family. I know it had to be a conspiracy because they didn't have cell phones when I went to school. You couldn't text, and you couldn't tweet, and you couldn't email. And how my mama knew what I did before I could make it home? How? How that could happen? All right? Look, there's a Delray way. I feel strongly about it. There is a Delray way. Not every community is like Delray. Maybe I'm just so spoiled about being in Delray that I'm delusional. But there is a Delray way now. All right? Our children are a reflection not of the school district, but of the Delray way. Now, if they're not making the mark, then we got to do something different. We got to do something different. So the challenge to this community is for us to never, ever get the power that we have and the legacy that we have set. I got a grandson now, depending on this community to maintain the Delray way. Before I turn over, I have some partners, SEIU, Coalition for Black Student Achievement, WALK. Is there anything else that we need to discuss before we close the meeting out?